morning. Thanks to Johan, I don't actually need to introduce WBCSD anymore. Just a couple words about ourselves. We're a global business association based in Geneva, Switzerland. We have roughly 200 corporate members from 25 different sectors represented in WBCSD. And our mission is business and sustainability. So how do we work together with our business partners to drive sustainability? You see, of course, many familiar names, and many of them have a footprint also in the buildings and construction sector, be that as material suppliers, construction companies, equipment providers, utilities, or also financial institutions. So I'll briefly talk about why this matters to us, and then I want to spend a little bit of time on the LCA topic that we've already heard a couple times this morning. We operate under a Vision 2050 of 9 billion people living well within the limits of the planet. We developed that vision back in 2009 and 10, and since then we've worked, and with the help of Johan Rockström and the Stockholm Resilience Center, to bring that down to our new strategic framework, which is inspired by the 9 planetary boundaries. And we have moved that into 6 strategic clusters that for us are our guiding pole now in our work. And of course you see the environmental issues and materials, but of course also social issues that we have on our strategic framework. My area is cross-cutting, it's buildings and cities, to make sure that in all our work we deliver to these strategic areas. We also have a global network of national business councils for sustainable development. They are similar organizations, CEO-led, dedicated to sustainability in 67 countries. And what's important for them, while our footprint is still about 70% OECD-based, the national BCSDs are primarily in emerging economies, which is very important for us as we're moving increasingly into how do we work along the value chain, how do we work in local markets to really make a difference. So, a couple words on urbanization. We've heard it already from Karina. Clearly, we need to work in cities. They will represent 70% of the population by 2050. And 3/4 of GHG emissions will be generated in cities. And that's definitely where we need to act. But it's also, of course, opportunities for the companies that are in this space to really drive their vision together with the cities and really help them to move forward. We have a few projects in the cities area at this point running in WBCSD. I'll just say 2 words about each of them. We have a mobility project running that is working with cities on indicators for sustainable, affordable and safe mobility to really help cities make choices. And it's supported by a toolbox with different mobility solutions that can help the cities. Another project I'm directly involved in is on zero emission cities. So how can we from the business sector in a cross-sectoral collaboration with the city really help them to drive a vision of zero emissions? It's a challenging project, it's only just started, clearly a very ambitious goal, but we're seeing some interesting work emerging from that. Increasingly bringing our work on natural infrastructure and water use to cities as well. And last but not least, we have a project on buildings and primarily focused on energy efficiency in buildings, where today the key barriers are market barriers. They're not technology barriers, but they're really market barriers, which we are hoping to overcome through this project. So, few words on how we see the work on sustainable and resource-efficient buildings. Of course, James has already touched upon some of that. We see increasingly the work around the multiple benefits. So how can we put a value and make more evident the benefits from more sustainable buildings? And of course, that helps us in the end to address the climate challenge. But if you look at decision makers, if you look at it at the local level, you have to really connect those. And I really like your saying on split incentives is also split benefits. And we need to create the holistic business case where the different actors can really see why they should move in that direction. Another framework that is very inspiring for us is from the IEA on the multiple benefits. that also makes the economic case for change in terms of productivity, growth, health, and other issues that are relevant at a national but also at a city level. So that's how we look at how we need to change the building market. So in the energy efficiency in buildings project, we're working currently in 9 local markets from Europe, South America to Asia and the US to really learn how can we bring together the whole building value chain down to the users, the utilities, the financiers to overcome the barriers. And we see increasingly that there's 4 core issues that most markets face. You have to find local solutions to them, but we also have to get better at telling the good practice and disseminating that information. So it's around awareness, it's around financing, around policy, and of course the skilled workforce and the capacity to deliver. So we're running this project in these 9 different markets, and we're hoping through a network of partners like the World Green Building Council, like UNEP and many others, that we can actually scale this up and bring this to many more markets so that we really start generating that demand. So I want to spend the last few minutes of my time on a new project that we have started just early in this year, and it really relates also to what Josefina has told us on the European Commission communication on resource efficient buildings. The companies in WBCSD through the EEB project, but interestingly also the chemical sector project, they came together and said, we come to the same conclusion that there is not a common language on how we integrate environmental but also social issues into decision making. And especially the LCA community is very, very fragmented. It's very cumbersome for companies to do LCA, and hence there is a very weak business case for really rolling that out. So the companies have come together, and I must say the time was probably right at the end of last year. We tried 4 years ago. It was too early. We did not manage to create such a group, but we now have a small group, but representing different materials as well as construction, to really say we want to work together to see how we can develop such a common language at the global level. So we will work, of course, very closely with the European stakeholders and especially the work that's currently happening at the Commission level, but also how can we bring other regions into this discussion. So the challenge today is that sectors have developed their own tools. I will speak a little bit later about some of the work in the cement sector, but what we really need to get at is that common language across. And so what we want to do in this project is to, let's say, scientifically accepted simplification of LCA, to really harmonize and mainstream the use of LCA for buildings and materials. So product level, but in the end, it's the holistic approach. In order for us to make a better business case for the use of LCA and really get that into the decision makers' view. So what will be key for us is to engage the downstream actors, developers, investors, who are also looking at what sustainability metrics should we be using in assessing the value of buildings. So we need to make sure that these two communities start speaking to each other. So I mentioned already Skanska are driving this. They're chairing our group internally. Very strong desire to really move this. And I must say they also have a good role in bringing our supply chain together, because everybody wants to work in a good way with the people downstream. That's your client. So we really benefit. And we're trying to partner now also so that we can really get the finance and developer community to work with us. So you can see we have currently a relatively good cross-section of different materials. We'll still move forward strengthening this group, but moving in this direction. It's about a 3-year project, so very similar timeline like at the Commission level. We have started simply with a landscape review. How are decision makers today using LCA methodologies and tools, etc., and to really move from there and start understanding can we develop such a simplified language? It all sounds nice and easy, but we know, of course, the complexity of this challenge that we have ahead of us. And the success factors for this work will be, of course, for us, a global view, because our companies, they're operating across the globe, and they would like to have the same frameworks everywhere, and to really engage the key stakeholder groups, which are primarily downstream, but also, of course, the design, architect community, and the existing rating schemes and regulations. We'll do this based on existing methods. We're not creating something new, but really the desire is to come up with a simplified framework. And where possible, move to better data generation, because that's still a key issue in this, that we get a better level playing field. I'll close on an important part of the work that we're doing, and also back to what Johan mentioned, what the business community should be doing in the climate discussions. In May, there was a big business climate summit in Paris. There were almost 2,000 people there. There were many business associations present, talking about the need for a carbon price, talking about business is ready to move forward. And some of my internal colleagues tell me that through the coalition of We Mean Business, where WBCSD, CDP, Climate Group, and others have worked together, we may just have created a language that has helped the G7 when they came together to really make a more progressive statement. So I don't have any proof for that, I just have anecdotal evidence from my colleagues. But I think by business standing up and saying, we can give you the confidence that this is possible, that may well help the politicians to come up with something much more forward-looking. And LCTPI, Peter Bucker, my boss, says you have to learn to sing this. It's a horrible acronym. It's Low Carbon Technology Partnership Initiative. That's what has brought us with IEA and the Sustainable Solutions Development Network together under the umbrella of the French government to really bring business solutions to COP21. So how can we catalyze action to really take up low carbon technologies? We're doing this in different areas, from renewables to advanced biofuels, carbon capture and storage, buildings, in particular energy efficiency, but also cement, chemicals, and climate smart agriculture. And we're working towards COP with an ambition level for each of these issues, and how together with partners we can really show action that's already happening, but how we can really deploy low carbon technologies at a much wider scale. So that's how we as WBCSD, we hope to really make a substantial contribution as we move to COP21. And as I said, give that confidence that the business sector really wants to move forward. Thank you very much, and I think I'll come back later on another topic. So.